And hello again, folks, and welcome to Shell Buzzy's House Smart Coffee Break. And today, well, why not? It's getting that time of the year. Let's talk about heating. Now, heating is just not a furnace. Heating could be a heat pump. It could be convection baseboard hot water. It could be radiant heating in the floor. It could be any number of things. But hot water is one thing that is very common, but not as common as forced air. And we're going to talk about forced air today because I'm sure the majority of your homes are heated with a forced air furnace. And with me I got Sean Jackson. He's with the company called Bakerview Heating and Cooling, and he's also the operations manager. But he knows heating. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I tell you, if I was any better, I'd be dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes right down to it. But you know, when it gets to the educational part, and this is what our show, the Coffee Break, is all about. We have podcasting and we have all these things, but they're all education that we want the homeowner to take and really digest it and take it to the nth degree and get her done. Right now, we're in the fall months. What do we do about furnace systems? I know I'm always saying to people, get them serviced, get them serviced.
Well, if you have a high-efficient furnace, you one of the biggest things you need to make sure is obviously your filter is clean. Another thing is every high-efficient furnace condensates.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that condensate trap is clean because you don't want that furnace to back up with moisture.
Right.
And also, a lot of houses don't have drains on the floor. So if you don't have a drain on the floor, obviously you're going to have a condensate pump.
That's that. Yeah. Brrr.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're a little bit loud. But that has to be cleaned out as well, and that'll prolong the life of that condensate pump.
Now, condensation. A lot of homeowners just don't realize that a condensing furnace, which is a high efficiency furnace, up in above that 95% efficiency. But really, the efficiency factor is all based upon the technology that they've got within that cabinet, being the furnace. But they don't understand this condensation thing. Condensation is normally, in their best estimation, what forms on windows when it gets cold outside and they got too much moisture inside. Well, that's the same sort of thing that's happening inside the furnace, isn't it?
Yes, well, basically you have a primary heat exchanger and you have a secondary heat exchanger. That primary heat exchanger, that's where the flame goes into, and then the exhaust goes through a secondary heat exchanger, and that's where you're getting all that moisture. And that moisture has to go somewhere, and we know that it goes into the condensate trap.
Well, you know, that's why we have Bakerview Heating and Cooling and part of our referral network, because we know good, better, best, why we worry about the rest. But, you know, when we go through our orientation and we go through our House Smart criteria to become a member, we want you as representatives of the heating business, being Bakerview, to really explain that to homeowners. Because homeowners, I have them phone here, believe it or not, I have them phone here and talk about heat pumps, and they don't realize they got air conditioning.
Oh, yeah. Well,
they think it's a heat pump, it's heating.
Yeah, it's a very simple thing. Heat pumps have what they call a reversing valve in them, and all they do is they reverse and they go into the cooling mode. So yeah, so heat pump will heat and it'll cool. It's
just that easy, folks, because if you have a heat pump installed, first of all, we're talking about the importance of maintaining, and a heat pump is a forced air system.
Yes, it is.
And because you can't get that cooling without moving air. But let's get back to some of these. I know there's still old low efficiency furnaces out there, forced air, and mid efficiency furnaces, because in fact, I think there's some companies out there that ordered a tremendous amount of them and were still installing them last year. And I'm not so sure if that's wrong. I think it's, you know, there's a lot of mid efficiency furnaces out there that are doggone well energy efficient to the extent of in that high 80s. But, you know, the importance is that they still have to maintain them.
They sure do. Every high efficient or mid efficient has what they call a flame sensor, and that flame sensor gets tarnished, so it needs to be basically buffed up, cleaned, and the runner bars on your burners have to be clean, because if that runner bar isn't clean, your flame isn't going to shoot across, and it's not going to hit that flame sensor. And if it does hit the flame sensor, and the flame sensor is tarnished, it's not going to sense, and basically you're going to a lockout and you have no heat.
Well, you know, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure, right now listening to this on the the internet, and they're going, what does he mean by that? The most important thing, folks, is having a qualified technician take care of it for you. It's a little more than just going down and pulling out a little filter.
That's right.
And putting a new cartridge back in.
Correct.
And there's even good, better, best there. You always want to look for the best of the MERV factor, and you can get into the media type, you can get into the ultraviolet type, all these different types. But you know, again, the importance of 24/7 circulation of a
Yes,
furnace.
very important. Yes.
Explain that.
Well, when it gets cold and dry out, you want to have your furnace off. You want to have that on an auto mode. You don't want to have that furnace running, because your humidity in your house will drop too much. Around this time of the year is when it's getting foggy. There's moisture. You get moisture forming on your windows. Any kind of air movement in your house is going to help bring that condensation down. It's not going to take it away completely. In a lot of cases it does, but for the most part it's going to help.
But it's pressurizing the home,
Yes.
and if you open the door, open a window, you're going to move that air
That's right.
out, or help your bathroom exhaust
Correct,
fans
correct.
as well. But and that's a very important thing, folks, because as soon as that weather changes and we get moisture forming on windows,
Yes.
we get phone calls.
That's right.
What do I do, Shell? What do I do? Well, being the operations manager at Bakerview, and we'll have the phone number going across the screen, so they can give us a call, or give us a call here at the House Smart Home Center, or go to our website at askshell.com and go to our category breakdown as far as services. And when you were talking about furnaces, you're going to certainly be seeing listed there and hearing from Bakerview. But hot water is another situation, and let's not talk about hot water heating. That's radiant or convection. But hot water, let's talk about hot water tanks. There's good, better, best there. And so forced air furnaces normally have that hot water tank sitting right next door to them, because of venting and all the rest of it, and the venting of the old units that were there. But tell me, what about these high efficiency condensing tankless hot water heaters versus that of the tank type?
Well, one of the cons of having a on-demand or a instantaneous water heater is you are going to wait for that water a little bit longer. Like if you're waiting 15 seconds now, you're now going to wait, possibly 30 to 45 seconds. You're going to have these big vents sticking out your house. It's going to be steam coming out the side of your house. What else is there? They're very expensive. They're not cheap to install.
I always say that how many do you have in the family? And if they have any over 4, then it could be certainly conserving and giving them some payback as far as economy. But if they phone me as a husband and wife, retired couple, for example, I'll say, no. Your hot water tank is very adequate. You can get a high efficiency unit there as well.
As well, yes, you can. You can get, basically your atmospheric hot water tanks is still available. You can get the power vent, direct vent hot water tanks, which some of them give you a $1,000 rebate back from Fortis.
You have all that detail, haven't you?
Yeah.
On your furnaces and hot water?
Oh, yeah. Well, furnaces aren't right now, but I'm sure the Fortis will be coming out with another rebate. I'm not sure how long, but
yeah, what I read, it's going to happen not too far around the corner.
That's good.
When it comes time to launch things, they'll get them out there, and
Absolutely.
homeowners will go wild about saving money, and
sure
it's
will.
really important to do that as well. But hot water heaters, there's a good, better, best, folks, but they are relevant to the demand, and just to put in a tankless hot water heater, be it condensing or otherwise, just to give you more room in the closet. As you say, you're going to wait longer for hot water, but a lot of people think, instant hot water, that's turning the faucet on, you got instant.
That's not instant.
It doesn't happen that way, folks. Instant hot water is those little jennies, I call them, those little boilers that sit underneath the kitchen sink that you have for tea, if you want tea in the afternoon and not boil a kettle.
That's right.
But hot water tanks, hot water heating, hot water boilers, those are all items that have to be serviced. And they have to be serviced. You wouldn't, as I said to Sean before we went on the air here, you don't drive a car for 100,000 kilometers before you change the oil. If you do, you're going to have problems. Same with your furnace. You want to service it every year.
Correct.
And really the cost is so minimal.
It's very minimal. And you want to keep your warranties. If your furnace is fairly new, you want to be able to show that manufacturer your service records.
Exactly.
To
And keep that file.
and not void that. Yes, please keep that file. Yes.
And now another thing too, when we're dealing with hot water heating, there's hot water heating or hot air or forced air, convection or radiant type of heating, and they're becoming so fancy now. Are these inserts for fireplaces?
Oh yeah.
You know, I was out the other day. I couldn't believe it. There's one that even has smoke coming off it. It's vapor, but it looks like wood burning and smoke rising. And what it was is a little Jenny in there with steam that gives you that look.
That's new to me.
It's brand spanking new, but you know that's where technology is going today. People want, you know, what about inserts? What about gas inserts?
I think they're fabulous. You can there's a lot of inserts out there that if you have an existing, say a Montego sandpan style gas fireplace that doesn't really do anything for heating, we can actually rip that out and put in an insert for you that'll actually just fit right in. There's a few brands out there that are doing that now. They have come out with, in 2015, all fireplaces are mandatory with safety screens on them, so your kids don't burn their hands.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't know that. So
they're all mandatory. Yeah.
Now, also, I take that being mandatory for safety's sake that way, they're also rated now energy efficiency wise.
Correct, because they're all spark ignition now.
Right.
They don't have standing pilots. So basically, they have a backup battery if the power goes out, so you can still use your fireplace if there's a power outage to get some heat.
Now, there's something that I'd like to ask. Have you ever heard anything with regards to the code? Are they going to be recommending to get rid of the standing pilot lights? Because standing pilot lights, I know in our building, their standing pilot lights they burn all year long.
They have with gas fireplaces.
Mm-hmm.
That is mandatory.
That's right.
That is mandatory.
Yeah.
Now. They don't even sell gas fireplaces without.
They're
all spark ignition.
Yeah.
So.
But what happens if they have the old type?
That's fine.
You still service those?
Yeah, we still service those. We'll clean the glass. We check your millivoltage on your pilot generator. We clean the burners. We have to clean the pilot assembly. That's very important because the pilot can be very small, and if it's not hitting that pilot generator or thermocouple, it can go out on you. Yeah. So it's pretty important to clean it.
And that's a real problem because we get the phone calls here.
Yeah.
My switch works, I think, for my fireplace insert, but when I switch it on, nothing happens.
Well, the switches do have a lot of resistance through them, so you want to, possibly either replace that switch or replace it with a thermostat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a good thermostat, and that way, hey, it'll work just like a furnace.
Absolutely, folks. My guest is Sean Jackson. He's with our Bakerview member of the Shell Busey HouseSmart Home Services, and we're talking about the importance of heating. Forced air heating, yes. Hot water heating could be radiant or convection. They have a boiler, service that boiler. When it comes down to hot water heaters, hot water tanks, holding tanks, all those sort of things, you want to make sure that they're serviced because the cold weather is just around the corner. Now, we may have a mild winter. Let's hope we do. It was certainly a beautiful summer. But before I let Sean go, I do want to talk to him about service warranties, service programs that a lot of people deal with. When you buy a new car, I just bought a new car this year, my good grief, I sent it to it and to have an oil change.
Yeah.
By the time I got it back, they found enough to get it well over $150. But I know when it comes to servicing, what is the average servicing cost?
It ranges. We have specials on, but usually it's around $130.
$130.
Yeah.
So they are.
Yeah, $130, and a furnace heat pump would be a little more. $230.
The main thing is not a big amount.
No, it's
getting
not.
a service and finding out.
No.
And warranties and ductless hot water is something that turns me on when I get talking about it. But also ductless heaters and ductless air conditioners. And those are the type that hang on the wall?
Correct.
How are they? Because a lot of people are asking about them because of our hot summer.
Yeah, well, I put in a lot this summer. A lot of people have, they have a newer house where they put forced air in, or the builders put forced air in, and they've got electric heat upstairs. So, of course, they're going to get an air conditioner. They're only going to basically cool the main floor of the basement. But of course, where are you sleeping? You're sleeping upstairs. So,
right.
We'll put in a ductless mini split. We can do, one head up to 8 heads. So if you have 3 bedrooms, we can put 3 in, and we can have 1 unit outside, and it'll heat and cool. So
Very quiet.
very, very quiet. You don't even hear them.
Yeah.
They're DC inverters.
Right.
But they also they're zoned as well, so everyone has its own thermostat.
Now, what about the ductless air conditioning and ductless heating systems? I know there's many brands out there now. One that we highly recognize is Mitsubishi. But tell me, can you put that condenser? I know you can put them out on decks and they make no more noise than a refrigerator.
Correct.
But can you put them up in an attic cabin?
No.
So therefore, because they have the condensing again.
Correct. Well, if it goes into the heating mode, that unit outside is going to go into defrost mode. And when you go into defrost mode, it basically produces water on that outdoor unit.
Right. So there you have it, folks. When you are looking at ductless air conditioning and you live in a condominium or you live in a townhouse and you got a deck outside and you'd love to have air conditioning, but there is a reason within your strata that they don't allow them, or they're too noisy, or they don't follow the good neighbor policy,
Yeah.
all that sort of good information that I like to put out there to make sure people are aware that these are so quiet. You can have a barbecue rotisserie with a roast on it making more noise than an air conditioning compressor by the ductless type of air conditioning. So make sure that if in doubt, don't pout. Let Shell help you out. And we would get people, for an example, Bakerview, who are members of our Shell Busey House Smart Home Services, and they do heating and cooling, and Sean's the operations manager, so you can talk right to him. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say, doggone thanks for coming out and talking
welcome,
about this
Shel.
sort of thing, because you're the maintenance guy. You're not only at the company being operations, but also maintenance out there in the field knowing what's going on.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you coming in, giving our listeners, giving our viewers that opportunity, and we just ask them to call the numbers on your screen, folks, 604-542-2236. That's for us, but if you want to contact, obviously, Bakerview Direct, I'll just get the number right here. It's 604-371-4328. I know you wouldn't get that quick. This phone, Shell Buzzes, askshell.com. Bye for now. Love you all.